6401, 6402, 6403, 6404, 6405, 6406, 6407, 6408, 6409, 6410, 6411, 6412, 6412, 6430, 6440, 6415, 6416, 6417, 6418, 6419, 6420, 6421, 6422, 6423, 6424, 6223, 6424, 6425, 6426, 6427, 6428, 6429, 6430, 6431, 6432, 6433, 6434, 6430. 64, 37, 64, 38, 64, 39, 64, 40, 64, 41, 64, 41, 64, 42, 64, 43, 64, 44, 64, 45, 64, 46, 64, 47, 64, 48, 64, 49, 64, 50, 64, 51, 64, 52, 64, 52, 54, 64, 53, 64, 54, 64, 55, 64, 56, 64, 57, 64, 58, 64, 59, 64, 60, 64, 61, 64, 62, 64, 63, 64, 64, 64, 66, 64, 67, 64, 68, 64, 69, 64, 70, 64, 71, 64, 72, 64, 73, 64, 74, 64, 75, 64, 76, 64, 77, 64, 78, 64, 79, 64, 80, 64, 81, 64, 82, 64, 83, 64, 84, 64, 85, 64, 86, 64, 87, 64, 88, 64, 89, 64, 490, 64, 91, 64, 92, 64, 93, 64, 94, 64, 95, 64, 96, 64, 97, 64, 98, 64, 99, and 6500. Let's go.